the walls are closing in fast. They have increased the intensity of the propaganda. For those awake, it seems very clear that they are coming for everyone that is not falling in line.
But it's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks. It's the unvaccinated folks that are letting us down.
The lines are being drawn.
I will say we understand her frustration, and we understand the frustration of leaders out there.
They clearly are able to see those that are falling in line with them, and they are looking to identify those who are just on the fence and those who are clearly out of their mental grasp. Every time we turn on the media, we are hearing the same propaganda increasing gradually, and I know for a majority of us, it is probably a little overwhelming. But while they're trying to keep our eyes focused on this Delta COVID strain,
we're in the midst of a third wave of COVID-19. The Delta variant is deadly for those who refuse to be vaccinated.
They are moving with many other agendas around the world. We are moving towards their event, and they want us sedated and distracted, fully trusting their mouthpieces as we move forward. I don't want you to focus on any of this, but I also don't want you ignorant to what is happening. So it's time for a news update on the narratives happening around the world, so our Father doesn't catch any of us sleeping. Let's begin. War against those not taking their solution.
Last week, we have averaged 239 deaths per day, an increase of nearly 48% over the prior week. Each death is tragic and even more heartbreaking when we know that the majority of these deaths could be prevented with a simple, safe, available vaccine.
The new cases in COVID are because of unvaccinated folks. Almost 100% of the new hospitalizations are with unvaccinated folks. And the deaths are certainly occurring with unvaccinated folks. These folks are choosing a horrible lifestyle of self-inflicted pain.
Besides, this emotional plea you just gave us, what is it going to take to get people to get shots in arms?
I don't know, you tell me. Folks supposed to have common sense. But it's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks. It's the unvaccinated folks that are letting us down.
Let's just get to that, because this is clearly the biggest piece of propaganda happening at this time. It's so funny and hypocritical how the mainstream, when speaking for abortion, always use the argument of not telling women what they can do with their bodies.
New Yorkers, thank God for abortion. Thank God for abortion.
But all of a sudden, they feel it's something that they can promote when it comes to those who do not take their solution.
I support a woman's right to choose. I support it's a constitutional right. I've supported it. I will continue to support it.
The liberal agenda always seems to be pro-choice, except for when it's something that they want you to do. It's hypocritical. This subject is such an annoying one because it's easy to see how much people are being mind controlled by it. Biden came in office in January and went into a sprint of vaccinating the public. This wasn't years, but months.
200 million shots in 100 days, in under 100 days, actually.
After a 6-month sprint of giving their solution, they decided that the agenda was changing. And they basically are saying that the solution that was given over the beginning of this year was not good enough for the new variant, and people will be needing what they call a booster shot. Some people got 2 doses less than 3 months ago and are now finding out that they may need a 3rd shot and that they need to wear masks again. Israel just approved their 3rd shot. And what's worse about this is that they are making the ones who do not take the solution as the enemy of humanity, basically. And they are now increasing their fight against our decisions. We are not allowed to speak against it. You really don't know what you can say and can't say when it comes to this solution they are pushing. And to be honest, it really doesn't matter because they are showing they don't care about our reasoning, just about our compliance. So they are moving with the next round, which is pushing the mandatory vaccinations. But they aren't doing it by law yet. They are doing it by employment. The federal government just announced this week that they are requiring vaccination of all federal workers or be subjected to weekly COVID testing. Major employers like Facebook and Google are requiring it for their workers coming back to the office. In California, drastic action is being considered.
Again, with the new push to get more Americans vaccinated, as the nation's top infectious disease doctor warns, the U.S. is moving in the wrong direction. Now, local governments are taking matters into their own hands. We actually learned today that New York City will require all 400,000 city workers to get shots or face weekly testing. And California will begin checking proof of vaccination for all of their state employees. And then the Department of Veterans Affairs became the first federal agency to require vaccinations for its healthcare workers. And there is some positive news. Vaccinations are up nearly 14% in the last week, meaning the message that the shots could help stop the spread of the highly contagious Delta variant might be working.
Those who are unvaccinated or decline to provide the requested documentation will be subject to regular testing and have to wear masks while working indoors. Across the country, restaurants are declining patrons who are unvaccinated. It's no vax, no service.
No shirt, no shoes, no service. Well, you've seen those signs, no doubt. How about another one, a sign of the times? No vaccination card, no service.
And many counties around the country are voting right now to rescind the no mask mandate that they just put out a month or two ago. There is so much that can be said about this agenda, but we are forced to tread lightly in our thoughts about it all. If you have not watched my video about this solution, you can watch it right on my website, truthunedited.com. This may help you with your understanding on their solution. But here is the deal that I need believers to really comprehend. This was always going to happen in some form. The vaccine is not, and I repeat, it is not the mark of the beast. But it is mental conditioning towards the acceptance of the mark. The world population is being walked down a straight path towards the acceptance of their beast agenda. You can see this clearly if you pay attention to how people are being manipulated to hate those who aren't taking their solution.
William, who also has diabetes, was not vaccinated.
He will get the vaccine when he gets out of the hospital.
William got infected when he went to his church pastor's funeral. It turned out to be a super spreader event.
They want the people to believe the unvaccinated are haters of humanity, that they don't care about the general public.
So why are we succumbing to the intransigence of the unwilling and instead seeking to punish the responsible, those who've done their part by getting vaccinated?
And from this, you can see clearly where this will be manipulated in the end towards believers, or what they will probably label Christian fundamentalists. For believers, those who follow the word and not the religious distractions, we know that according to Bible prophecy, there will be a time that society will go one direction that we cannot follow. Many of us will have to make decisions that will separate us completely from society and from much of the world that we once knew. Most of my videos over time was always about the building of our strength, so that we were mentally and spiritually ready for this. I will not tell you whether you should take the solution or not. That is not my business. If you watch my videos, you should know where I stand on this, and I am unwavering to it. I will only tell you that you should research what exactly the solution is, and when was it ever used before. Now, we are nowhere close to the full application to this entire agenda, so it is very important that everyone starts to use their own minds and have sound thinking, not based upon fear. If this agenda is getting too much for you to bear, turn your television off and ignore it when it comes through to your phone. Turn off your ears and mind to it and just stand on your convictions. This next phase we are in is really going to highlight those who aren't under this spell versus the ones who just were hesitant but not really standing on real convictions. I know many people who don't hold real convictions, but just wasn't going to be the first to the acceptance. This next phase is going to put pressure on them and they will start to bend. As you start seeing people's jobs on the line, you will start seeing more of your family and friends fall to this agenda. Many of them won't even talk to you about it and will do it without telling you because they know that they aren't confident about the decisions, but they're just moving in fear. For believers, you need to stand firm and understand that we are in the end times. This is a time where your faith must be fully in our Father in heaven and trust that He will see us all through. But this is an agenda, and it's a very dangerous one, leading to the mark of the beast. Everyone is seeing that compliance is our only choice to be a part of this system, and those that will not comply will be enemies and lose their place in this world. For a believer, the only thing that they must think about is putting their strength in Father versus the world. As things happen right now, we can clearly see how many people will hear, "I never knew you." Because those that know him know that he wants us to put our faith in him and not in the ways of this world. Stay faithful to him. Economic collapse. Now, I'm not going to harp on this because I speak about it often enough. I will just tell you that for me, the next few months, August through October, are very crucial times for me and my economic outlook. The perfect storm is brewing, and all the steam has been exhausted. The stimulus money has been drowned out. This real estate boom is slowing. The unemployment benefits are being rescinded. The eviction moratorium is going away. Inflation is surging monthly. The Fed is still keeping rates at zero, staying true to the hyperinflation course that we're on. And the stock markets are still close to all-time highs with only good news priced into it. This economic system is massively fake and only being propped up by AI and algorithms that are keeping the narrative afloat till the time is up. You should understand that all of those negative factors I just mentioned are not priced into this market and the economy, along with the fact that this new Delta variant by itself could upset things if they go back to social distancing requirements, lockdowns, and mandating the vaccine. What this means is that any major negative news could provide a major blow to this market, and if you're watching it, it is ready to break. There really is no telling how they will use this new part of their agenda with this economic system. But I can promise you, there isn't a lot more room for the markets to go. We are seeing many warnings in the media of what is to come, and everything seems very familiar to the 2008 debt crisis and the way things were before the financial crisis happened. Look at this article from The Guardian. Conditions are ripe for repeat of 1970s stagflation and 2008 debt crisis. Warning signs are there for global economy, and central banks will be left in impossible position. This is of course very telling, but the general public still doesn't seem to understand this. What's worse is that our debt is at a really big inflection point in our history right now, and the mainstream really isn't mentioning it like they normally do. All this talk around the Delta variant and the unvaccinated, but by August 1st, we are going to hit our debt ceiling, and there is no mention of any agreement by Congress to pass this.
Secretary Janet Yellen alerted lawmakers that the nation will hit the debt limit on August the 1st, and she urged Congress to take action soon. Now, already, Treasury is planning to stop the sale of certain state and local government securities on July 30th, just before that debt limit deadline. The department will then have to resort to additional extraordinary measures on August the 2nd. Now, Yellen did not provide an estimate of how long these tools might last. The Congressional Budget Office had projected October or even November, but Yellen said the pandemic has made this timing particularly uncertain, and those extraordinary measures could run out shortly after Congress returns from its summer recess.
While they are still talking about spending trillions more in this infrastructure deal, which they are talking about.
Today, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the administration expects lawmakers to act promptly, but didn't say whether it should be addressed in one of those infrastructure bills.
I'm not here to set a new deadline. I'm conveying to you the history and conveying to you that we think it's clear Congress should act in a bipartisan manner to raise the debt limit as they have in the past.
We are at a point where the government needs to approve taking on more debt.
Now, of course, guys, the U.S. has never defaulted on its debt, and Yellen said that doing so would cause irreparable harm to the U.S. economy and American livelihoods. Back to you.
We have been talking about the debt ceiling for at least half a decade from President Obama's term.
Republicans in Congress have two choices here. They can act responsibly and pay America's bills, or they can act irresponsibly and put America through another economic crisis. But they will not collect a ransom in exchange for not crashing the American economy.
Just 2 years ago, we had a government shutdown because the debt ceiling had been reached. This is news that they are not brainwashing the masses on, but it is something that is happening right now as this video is being released. They either aren't programming the masses on the debt ceiling because they're going to pass it with no problem, or they want the effects and fallout to be a surprise to the masses. we will see soon, but you shouldn't be asleep to these risks. The price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies recently did a quick sprint up, and like I said in my Bitcoin video, I use the price as a kind of stopwatch for the system. The higher the price goes, the closer we are to an economic collapse. The system has a lot of pressure points that are being pushed. Everyone should be moving in this world according to our true economic realities and not the fake realities that people want to see. People should be prepared for a financial and dollar collapse, and there is nothing but evidence to support that view, and only blind optimism that speaks against it. Make sure you are being smart and aware. World War III. Okay, now while we are being distracted by this COVID news, this is happening right under our noses. The masses are not being fully told about this, but yet every day things seem to be increasingly elevated. There is nothing but war drums rattling, and they are telling us we are going to war without being so direct. The beginning to World War III is on the horizon. It's like they are waiting for someone to make the first major move to declare full-out war. Based on the narratives they are giving us, it looks like the war will start with what happens in Taiwan. But the United States will undoubtedly be brought in.
President Xi Jinping making a veiled threat against the United States, warning that his country will not be bullied by foreign adversaries, saying that any threats would be met with a, quote, Great Wall of Steel.
World War III fears as China stages massive Taiwan invasion drills and boasts it would defeat US and UK in any conflict. Fears of World War III have been sparked after China staged massive military drills invading Taiwan. Beijing also boasted about defeating the US and the UK in any conflict, and says it is confident the advantages are on its side. The latest drill includes assault landings and island control exercises in a bid to demonstrate the communist state's military might. It was conducted as the country is preparing its soldiers in case of an insurgency in Taiwan, Chinese state media reports.
Everyone should know what is happening. Look at these headlines. Forbes, July 20th. The U.S. Air Force is sending dozens of F-22 stealth fighters to practice for war with China. The U.S. Air Force is deploying a huge force of fighters, including a possibly unprecedented number of F-22s to Guam, to practice for war with China. They're practicing for war with China, but yet the general public is asleep to all of this. CNBC, Sunday, July 25th. Disturbing actions by China signal early stages of a Cold War, economist Stephen Roach warns. Remember, this is the same man who is predicting a dollar collapse. Again in Forbes, Tuesday, July 27th. Thousands of ships, millions of troops. China is assembling a huge fleet for war with Taiwan. On CNN, also on July 27th, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said, U.S. doesn't want conflict with China, but won't flinch when our interests are threatened. War is being spoken about consistently, but because it's not being brainwashed in the normal manner that they do with everything else, the majority of the public just is not paying attention and they don't have a clue. Listen, just a week or two ago, China threatened Japan with a nuclear strike. They actually threatened to nuke Japan if they interfered with them taking Taiwan. Because a week earlier, Japan warned of a crisis over Taiwan that they would get involved with.
Deputy Prime Minister says that if China invades Taiwan, Japan needs to defend the island with the United States. Speaking at a fundraising event, Japanese Deputy Prime Minister Aso Taro said that if a major problem takes place in Taiwan, it could lead to a survival-threatening situation for Japan.
According to a Taiwanese lawmaker, these are some of the highest level statements Japan has ever made on the issue.
Taiwan, like I said earlier, looks like the entry point to World War III. There are war drums beating, and the public, at least in the United States, are clueless. It's not something that should be ignored. We also are hearing more and more about war with Russia as well, as they keep alluding to us that we will have what they want to label as a major cyber attack. We keep seeing this happening, which is now being a constant reminder that this will happen here. And we even have President Biden saying that war is expected with Russia, warning that cyber attacks could cause a real shooting war.
I think it's more likely we're going to end up, if we end up in a war, a real shooting war with a major power, it's going to be as a consequence of a cyber breach of great consequence. And it's increasing exponentially, the capabilities.
We're at a point where major conflicts are brewing, and things that people were saying looked very unlikely are now being called inevitable. If you aren't preparing yourself for this, then you will be caught off guard and be walked right into their plan for you. Stay focused on what is happening. Again, it looks like Taiwan will be the starting point, as well as a major cyber attack in the United States. And from my vantage point, it seems like they are gearing up for this within the next month or two. We are not at a time where they are creating a dozen narratives to promote their overall agenda. Understand, all the narratives have been set in place. All the chess pieces are being placed in their final position. It is important that we all make sure that our minds are right and that we stay focused. I made a video a couple of weeks about not being distracted, and those words still ring loud and true. If you watch the rest of the general public, they are like the walking dead. They are walking blindly without real thought, just being guided by the system, and they will attack anyone who is not walking blindly with them. Anyone who is not mind-controlled like them and not following the script that they are following, they are looking at as crazy and their enemy. It is important to recognize what time it is and detach yourself from all of it. What we as believers must do is stay in the Word. Don't neglect reading our Bibles, having discussions with our family. Stay focused on the Word and our Father's promises. Stay focused on His goodness. Do not get caught up with how crazy this world is and how fast things are changing. If you'll follow this channel for a while, you have been mentally prepared for all of this. None of this should be catching you off guard. But I know that the speed in which things are elevating is alarming. I know the narrative they are using with this Delta strain is very unsettling, and watching the zombies eat it up is a little frustrating. You need to break away from all of this. There will be family and friends that disappoint you. People that you have been trying to wake up that just will not. Pray for them, but do not let their stubbornness bring you down and drag you with them. All of you at this time should be focused on getting your houses in order, making sure you are ready for our Father and whatever He desires for us. Do not get caught up with the cares of this life, but set your mind upon our Father and His promises. It is a complete mindset change that you must have now. You see, the rest of the world is following all of these false narratives because they are attached to this system. They are trying to be great within this system, and even though the system keeps changing and telling everyone that the world is changing, they are not embracing this truth and living in a lie. This is how the media is able to keep a hold of them. You must continue to be the salt of the earth, and you do this by setting yourself apart from all of this. Everyone does not see the traps and snares that are being set for them, but for those paying attention, the traps seem very obvious. For me, I had to disconnect from everything and everyone that is putting this world and this system ahead of our Father. I am focused on keeping my family grounded and idol-free. As head of my home, I claim that we are going to live victoriously through all of this. We are living these last days focused on our Father and our family. If what you see is getting you bothered and frustrated, again, turn it all off. Stop watching the news and get off social media. All believers should right now stay with their eyes fixed upon our Father and understand that all these events that are happening right now are about removing His influence from this world. We are the last ones standing in the way of this, and so we must stay focused and live through the power of the Holy Spirit. We must draw our strength and power from Him. We must be listening to His Spirit and what He wants each of us to do. Right now, I feel Him telling me to be still and just focus on Him. Do things to keep my family together and out of the grips of this world, and that's what I'm doing. We must continue to stay narrow in our faith. The more narrow we are, the better examples we can set for the rest. We can only enter in by the narrow gate. So at this time, we need to examine our minds and the mindsets of our children and family and make sure we are not trying to enter through the broad gate. The word says, enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. Because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. That's Matthew chapter 7, verse 13 and 14. As the Apostle Paul wrote in his epistle to the Colossians, I share to you, we do not cease to pray for you, and to ask that you may be filled with the knowledge of His will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that you may walk worthy of the done, fully pleasing Him, being fruitful in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of Elohim, strengthened with all might, according to His glorious power, for all patience and long-suffering with joy, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified us to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in the light. He has delivered us from the power of darkness and conveyed us into the kingdom of the Son of His love, in whom we have redemption through His blood, the forgiveness of sins. He is the image of the invisible Elohim, the firstborn over all creation. For by Him all things were created, that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created through Him and for Him. And He is before all things, and in Him all things consist. And He is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things He may have the preeminence. That's Colossians chapter 1, verses 9 through 18. You see, Messiah is our head, and He has delivered us from the power of darkness. And as we focus on Him, He will fill us with the knowledge of His will, with wisdom and spiritual understanding, so that we are fully pleasing to Him and fruitful in our works. And you, who once were alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, yet now He has reconciled in the body of His flesh through death, to present you holy and blameless and above reproach in His sight. If indeed you continue in the faith, grounded and steadfast, and are not moved away from the hope of the gospel which you heard, which was preached to every creature under heaven. Colossians chapter 1, verses 21 through 23. This is the word, and if you read these epistles daily, it will give you strength, because of course Father knew what we would all be going through. That's why you must not let anything distract you from Him and His word. Yes, the world is going down, and the inhabitants are under a dark spell, but they can only come out of it through Messiah Yahshua. Do not get dragged down with them. These news updates are just so you can know what is happening away from what they are mind controlling everyone to know. You must be prepared for disruption and know that your hope is not found in trusting man in this world, but by residing in the will of our Father. And like I just read in Colossians 1, if you continue in the faith, grounded and steadfast, and are not moved away from the hope of the gospel, Messiah will present you as holy, set apart, and blameless, and above reproach to our Father in heaven. So stay grounded and faithful. Focus on the gospel and not on the walls closing in around us. Father knows what we are going through, and if you focus on Him, He will give you what you need to get through. But you need to focus on Him, and not the threats of this world and what comes from not following them. You know what is coming, and therefore will not be moved irrationally on that day. Stay faithful to our Messiah, for the day of our redemption is near. Be blessed. Okay. Thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like this and share it with others. If you have not done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Elohim willing, I upload every Friday. Don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. As always, I really would like to thank all those who support this ministry. I sincerely thank you for your support. I'm very thankful for you. Thank you for being a blessing and following the call our Father has placed on your heart. Thank you. Okay. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Be strong, be faithful, be blessed. I love you all.